You know, every indication in 2025, Canada continues to lead the world in hockey in many, many categories. Although at the World Championships we lost to Denmark, our influence on that country's team and various teams across the world has benefited from Canadian players in European leagues, be they male or female. But what really has been a lost part of Canadian history, hockey history, and I've talked about before, but I think it needs to be reiterated, was the late great Colored Hockey League. Now, the Colored Hockey League, or the Colored Hockey League, OUR, the spelling that we will be using, of the Maritimes, the CHL, was an all-black ice hockey league founded in Nova Scotia in 1894. It featured teams from across Canada's maritime provinces. The league operated for several decades, lasting until 1930. Now, founded in 1894 by James Borden, James Robinson Johnson, James A.R. Kinney, and Henry Sylvester Williams. There's different information when it ceased. It did fold and come back. It may have ceased for a little bit in 1911. Now, the league, again, was founded in the 1894-95 season in Halifax by a group of four black Baptist leaders and black intellectuals. Now, Borden was from Dartmouth Church. Kinney was a lawyer. Kinney was a local businessman. James Robinson Johnson was a lawyer and community leader. And Henry Sylvester Williams was a Pan-African organizer and lawyer. The league was constructed to attract young black men to Sunday worship with the promise of a hockey game between rival churches after the services. According to Canadian Encyclopedia, with the influence of the black nationalism movement and a rising interest in the sport of hockey, the league came to be seen as a potential driving force for the equality of black Canadians. Among the squads in the association were the Halifax Eureka's and the Amherst Royals. At its zenith, the league had teams in 7 communities in Nova Scotia and 1 in PEI, the West End Rangers from the Bog in Charlottetown. With as many as a dozen teams, over 400 black Canadian players from across Nova Scotia, New Brunswick, and PEI Island, Prince Edward Island, participated in competition. The Colored Hockey League is credited by some as being the first league to allow the goalie to leave his feet to cover a puck. It happened circa 1900. This practice was not permitted elsewhere until the formation of the NHL in 1917. It also claimed that the first player to use a slap shot was the very talented Eddie Martin of the Halifax Eureka in 1906. Now, in January 2020, Canada Post issued a postage stamp featuring the 1906 champion Halifax Eureka's to commemorate the history of black hockey players in Canada. Now, the history of the league is profiled in Daryl Fosty's and George Fosty's 2004 nonfiction book, Black Ice, The Lost History of the Colored Hockey League of the Maritimes, 1895 to 1925. And there's also a 2014 book, Tribes and International Hockey History, which expands on their previous work. It is also featured in Hubert Davis's 2020 documentary film, Black Ice. We'll get that to in a second. Now, the history of the league, including its destruction and destruction of the black community in Africville by the Halifax government trying to expand the railway, and also visited in Canada Land's Hockey Number 2, The Birth of Black Hockey. Now, Black Ice is a very interesting documentary. I think it was on the documentary channel for a while. Now, this documentary, directed by Hubert Davis and produced by Vinay Viramani, again based on the Fosty book. The film presents a history of the Colored Hockey League of the Maritimes in the early 20th century and the lingering history of anti-black racism in the sport of ice hockey. Executive producers of the film included Drake, LeBron James, and Maverick Carter. Now, the film premiered at the 2022 TIFF, where it was the winner of the People's Choice Award for documentaries. The film was named to TIFF's annual year-end Canada's Top 10 list for 2022. Now, produced by, again, Vinay Varamani, cinematography by Chris Romicki, edited by Eamon O'Connor, music by Simon Poole, and production company including First Take Entertainment, Uninterrupted Canada, and Black Ice Productions, and 97 Minutes. Now, on the review aggregator website Rotten Tomatoes, 96% of 26 critics' reviews are positive, with an average rating of 7.5. The website consensus reads, Black Ice offers an enlightening and possibly enraging overview of institutional racism in professional hockey. Metacritic, which uses a weighted average, assigned the film a score of 82 over 100. indicating universal acclaim. Michael Talbot Haynes of Film Threat gave the film a score of 10 out of 10 and wrote, easily one of the most surprising and profound sports documentaries ever made. Black Ice, directed by Hubert Davies, features earth-shattering discoveries about black Canadians in the history of hockey. Now, Peyton Robinson of RogerEbert.com gave the film 3 out of 4 stars and wrote, through multi-generational testimony from black hockey players, we learn about the racism endured by athletes from teammates, coaches, leagues, and fans alike who believe they don't belong in the sport. There's no timidity in the doc's testimonies. The film affords its subjects the same blunt expression that has been weaponized against them, and the result is unfiltered emotional depth that translate poignantly. Now, the idea of the black athlete in hockey became enormously in vogue when Bill Riley and Mike Marson in the 1974-75 Washington Capitals played at a time. Bill Riley was a big maritime star. But after that, you had the McKechnies, especially Tony, who had a great career as an offensive threat. Dirk Rain with Chicago, who a lot of people didn't know was black. But of course, you get into the Grand Fury years, and he had won several cups, played with the Canada Cup. He was mixed ancestry. He was Aboriginal and black. But as it stands right now, you look at some of the key players like PK Subban, some of the key players in the AHL and NHL right now. The ideal, ladies and gentlemen, and Peter Worrell is an example. Peter Worrell was one of the best two-way, what they call power forwards and fighters in Q history. By the time he got AHL, he faced racism and racism by Aboriginal players. I don't want to get but the coach of the Toronto Maple Leafs, current coach, allegedly said something to Peter on the ice that I can't repeat. See, you got to understand this, ladies and gentlemen. Racism in Canada has several faces, but it's usually French against English, English against French, rural against urban, and because black people came from rural areas. Now, knocking down Africa, but Halifax and Frankton and the Maritimes had a strong black Aboriginal presence. My great-grandfather's second wife was half Indian, half black. She came from Nova Scotia, and part of our family is black. So what Black Ice talks about in the Colored Hockey League is that great hockey athletes can come from any place. I know this for personal experience because I was the first journalist in the province to put female hockey players on the front page of a provincial weekly, the Hamilton Tribune. I put 3 top prospects. And the angst and hatred I got for that, I was getting death threats. And as an Aboriginal person who's also a Jew and Acadian, that's par for the course. But I can just say this. Willie O'Ree was not the first professional black hockey player to make the NHL. He was not the first black pro to do it big. I mean, Carnegie and everybody else. These players allegedly were paid underneath the table because it's not cheap to play. But the colored hockey, the colored league, you should check it. Check out the documentary Black Ice and investigate it on the Canadian Encyclopedia. I've done a previous podcast, but I think Black Ice should be regarded as one of the best documentaries you've never seen regarding hockey in the last 10 or 15 years. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you like what you're doing here, what our hockey tribute podcasts, let us know with a like, comment, subscribe, or share.